Karen Whitfield stood at her living room window, HOA violation notice pad clutched in her manicured hand like a weapon. Watching the Martinez children splash gleefully in the community pool, the sight made her blood pressure spike. It was 6:47 p.m., 13 minutes past the posted quiet hours that she had personally lobbied to implement. "Absolutely not," she muttered, marching toward her electrical panel with the determination of a woman who'd never been told no in her 53 years of suburban existence. Karen had discovered the pool's electrical shoot-off during last month's emergency preparedness inspection, a fancy term for her weekly power walks around the neighborhood, hunting for infractions. The circuit breaker sat innocuously behind the pool house, practically begging for someone with proper authority to use it. She flipped the switch. The pool lights died instantly, plunging the Martinez twins and 3 other neighborhood kids into darkness. Their laughter cut off mid-giggle, replaced by confused splashing and a few nervous giggles. "Mom said we could swim until 7, 8-year-old Sophia Martinez called out, treading water in the deep end. Karen emerged from behind the pool house like a suburban specter, her HOA badge gleaming under the security lights. Pool hours are clearly posted, children. 6:30 p.m. sharp during weekdays. But it's not even 7 yet," protested Tommy Chen, the oldest at 12. "Rules are rules," Karen declared, crossing her arms. "Your parents should have taught you to read analog clocks." The children grudgingly climbed out, water streaming from their swimsuits. Karen watched with satisfaction as they gathered their towels and pool toys, muttering complaints she pretended not to hear. "And don't forget to shower off that coloring before entering your homes," she called after them. "Some of us are sensitive to chemical odors." As the kids trudged away, Karen felt the familiar warmth of righteous authority. This was why the homeowners had elected her HOA president 3 years running. Someone had to maintain standards. Her phone buzzed. Maria Martinez. "Karen, why did you turn off the pool electricity? The kids were terrified swimming in the dark." "Pool hours are 6:30 during weekdays, Maria. It's clearly stated in the community guidelines I personally revised last spring. The sign says 7 p.m. Karen squinted at the faded pool sign through the darkness. Her reading glasses were back in the house, but she'd memorized those rules herself. Hadn't she? "I'll verify the posted hours tomorrow," she said curtly, ending the call. Walking back to her immaculate townhouse, Karen felt the first prick of uncertainty. But rules were rules, and someone had to enforce them, even if that someone occasionally made mistakes in the service of community order. Her neighbor's security camera blinked red from across the street, recording everything. By morning, Karen's phone had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The doorbell started ringing at 6 a.m., which was deeply inconsiderate since everyone knew she didn't receive visitors before 8. Karen. Maria Martinez stood on her doorstep with 3 other parents, all holding printouts. "We need to talk." "I don't conduct HOA business in my pajamas," Karen replied, clutching her silk robe tighter. "Please schedule an appointment." "This isn't HOA business," said Janet Chen, Tommy's mother. "This is about child endangerment." The words hit Karen like ice water. "Excuse me. The pool lights aren't just decorative, Karen. They're safety equipment. You left 5 children swimming in complete darkness." Maria's voice shook with barely controlled anger. "My daughter couldn't see the pool edge. She could have hit her head climbing out." Karen's mind raced. She'd assumed the pool lights were simply atmospheric. The security lights provided adequate illumination. "Adequate." Janet stepped forward, her lawyer training evident in her precise tone. "There's video footage of you deliberately cutting power to a pool with children inside. Do you understand the liability implications?" "I was enforcing community rules." "The wrong rules." Maria thrust a printout at her. "Pool hours are 7 p.m. weekdays, 8 p.m. weekends. It says so right on the sign you walk past every single day." Karen stared at the enlarged photo of the pool sign, the numbers suddenly crystal clear. 7:00 p.m. WEEKDAYS blazed in stark black letters. I misread it," she whispered. "You didn't misread anything," said Patricia Wong, the newest parent to the group. "You never actually looked." You just assumed you were right, because you always assume you're right. The words stung because they carried the unmistakable ring of truth. Karen had been so focused on catching violations that she'd stopped actually reading the rules she was supposedly enforcing. It was an honest mistake, Karen said, but her voice lacked conviction. Honest mistakes don't require sneaking behind pool houses to cut electrical power, Janet replied. That was deliberate, premeditated, and dangerous. Karen's perfectly controlled world began to crack. She'd built her identity around being the neighborhood's moral authority, the person who kept everyone else in line. But standing here in her robe at 6 a.m., being lectured by parents whose children she'd endangered, she felt small and foolish. What do you want from me? She asked. Resignation from the HOA board, Maria said immediately. Effective today. And a formal apology to our children, added Janet. And swimming lessons, Patricia said quietly. My daughter Emma is now afraid of pools. She thinks the lights will go out again. Karen looked at their faces, angry, disappointed, but not cruel. These weren't unreasonable demands from unreasonable people. These were parents protecting their children from her poor judgment. I'll draft my resignation letter, she said finally. As the parents left, Karen caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. When had she become the villain in other people's stories? 3 weeks later, Karen sat in the back row of the monthly HOA meeting, watching her replacement, mild-mannered accountant Bob Fletcher, fumble through the agenda she could have recited in her sleep. Motion to repair the community mailbox cluster, Bob read uncertainly. All in favor. 7 hands went up. Karen's hand twitched, muscle memory almost betraying her before she caught herself. She wasn't board president anymore. She was just another resident. The motion passed without debate, without her input, without her control. It felt strange and liberating in equal measure. After the meeting, Maria Martinez approached her cautiously. Karen, could we talk? They walked to the newly repaired pool area, where the evening swimmers were just arriving for their permitted 7 p.m. session. The underwater lights cast gentle blue patterns on the surrounding deck. How are you doing? Maria asked, surprisingly gentle. I've been better, Karen admitted. I've been thinking a lot about what you all said, about assuming I was right. We were pretty harsh that morning. You were honest. There's a difference. Karen watched a father teaching his daughter to float, patient and encouraging. I keep thinking about Emma being afraid of pools now. Because of me. Kids are resilient, Maria said. She's getting better. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the families enjoy the pool. Karen noticed things she'd missed during her years of rule enforcement. The way parents watched out for each other's children, how the older kids naturally helped the younger ones. The genuine community that existed without her constant oversight. I never learned to swim properly, Karen said suddenly. My mother thought pools were dangerous. Maybe that's why I was so paranoid about the rules. Maria turned to look at her with new interest. Patricia Wong teaches adult swim classes at the rec center. Low-key, very patient. I'm 53 years old. So, Emma's 6, and she's learning to be brave again. Seems like good company. Karen felt something shift inside her chest, not the familiar warmth of righteous authority, but something softer. Hope, maybe. Or just the possibility of becoming someone better than who she'd been. I'll think about it, she said. As they walked back toward their respective homes, Karen noticed her security camera neighbor, Mr. Park, tending his garden. He looked up, and for the first time in 3 years, actually waved at her. She waved back. The pool lights sparkled behind them, safely illuminating the evening swimmers who were blissfully unaware that their former HOA president was finally learning the difference between rules and compassion. But late that night, Karen received an email that made her blood run cold. A community pool incident. Legal action pending. The sender was listed as anonymous, but the attached documents bore the letterhead of Chen and Associates Family Law. Someone wasn't ready to let the past go.